Hello, my dear viewers. We're back with Transformice, the cartoon series. This time we're reviewing episode 19 called Try Again. So the plot for this episode is that we have cheese on top of the fridge again. Mind you, this kind of plot is something that we have seen multiple times before, and Trix is holding a ladder made of clothespins. Last encounter with clothespins didn't really end well for Trix, and they had to face consequences. But anyway, mice keep giving Trix more clothespins so that they could build ladder. Then Brutus arrives, and they give Trix a plunger. After that, Bonsai is doing acrobatics above them in order to reach the cheese. Brutus gets annoyed, and they throw plunger at Bonsai, trapping them inside. It makes Trix happy for some reason, and they drop the ladder, and Trix orders mice to make ladder out of themselves. One mouse reaches the plunger, and they try to bounce, but they end up freeing Bonsai instead, and they end up getting deformed. Plunger falls on Trix, and this time they're the one inside of it. Bonsai falls and Brutus is doing nothing about it, and they free the Trix. Then Trix orders Brutus to fix Bonsai. Then Bonsai runs from them. Then mice attach rope to the plunger and throw it at the fridge. Trix climbs up the rope and Bonsai is trying to climb up too, but Brutus is pulling their tail, making the plunger bouncy, and Trix ends up getting launched with the cheese, and they end up getting flushed in the sink. Brutus uses plunger in order to pull them out repeatedly, but they end up getting deformed thanks to Brutus' incompetence. This episode is pretty bad. The plot is just recycled from the previous episodes, characters trying to reach the cheese on top of the fridge, and attempting to do it in plethora of ways. It doesn't have any meaningful conclusion where the character faces consequences, or there's really strong punchline. Trix this episode wasn't really at their worst, but they weren't that good either. They were clearly set on their goals of reaching cheese, which is something I can approve of, but they also use other mice in order to do the hard work for them, and they also approve of Brutus' unprompted violence towards Bonsai. Their group of mice also disappears halfway into the episode, and I'm wondering if Trix did something to them. They also try to have moral high ground over Brutus later in the episode, ordering them to fix Bonsai despite approving of their violent act earlier. Bonsai did nothing wrong in this episode, in my humble opinion. They were just trying to get the cheese like everybody else, and they were unfairly punished because of it, and they were target of Brutus violence as well. Brutus. There is no defense for Brutus, I'm sorry. They are violent to Bonsai throughout the episode for no reason. They don't even help them when they fall, and they are the one that caused Trix to end up in the sink, and they don't face any consequences for their questionable behavior, and Trix has to suffer instead. The humor is the characters getting deformed, which is weak type of humor, and I personally don't find it funny. So the characters were making pretty much bad decisions throughout the entire episode. The episode wasn't really consistent, and the story was pretty awful. So these are my thoughts on this episode.
Bye.